On Triple J, that is the sounds of Crystal Castles, the second self-titled record released last year, and Celestica, a big song for 2010, and indeed a huge band for the last year. For Triple J listeners in particular, they are here for the big day out, travelling around the country on that big circus sideshow. And I have one of two members of Crystal Castles joining me in studio. Good morning, Ethan.
Good morning.
Very good to have you in the studio and back at Triple J. But without your compadre today, because she is horizontal and resting her ankle. What the hell happened to Alice Glass in Tokyo before you came to Australia?
Alice doesn't even remember. She was drunk and she somehow broke her ankle. And we weren't sure if we were going to come or not. But Alice decided to do the tour, even though doctors instructed her not to play for the next 6 weeks.
Wow. So she, being the trooper she was, said, no, I'm going to keep going. And she's been performing this last week at the two Sydney Big Day Outs, a sideshow in Sydney and the Gold Coast Big Day Out on crutches.
Yeah, she's been doing it with crutches. It's actually not the first time she played with broken bones. When our debut came out in 2008, we were doing a tour of the USA and she was in a car accident and broke her ribs. And exactly the same thing happened. Doctors told her to cancel shows for 6 weeks and she just kept playing shows with broken ribs.
Is Alice the toughest woman in rock and roll?
I think she is.
Does she scare you sometimes when she's up there on stage? 'Cause I saw you guys at Parklife a couple of years ago, and I remember watching her crawl all over everything, drum kits, the monitor speakers. Do you ever look at her and think, Alice, just chill, just calm down, you're going to hurt yourself?
No, I'm never concerned or worried about her. I know that she's tough as nails. She just keeps going. She
does indeed. She's going to keep going around the country for the big days out. There's a few more on the cards before you guys get out of here. Today, you are representing Crystal Castles in fine form because you're going to take us around the world, Ethan. Crystal Castles have been very busy, not only touring around the world, but this album alone that you just gave us, it was recorded in a church in Iceland, a cabin in Ontario, an abandoned convenience store in Detroit. A couple of songs were recorded in the studios of London producer Paul Epworth. Why all these places? Was it just coincidence you happened to be in these places at the time, or did you actually seek out these, all of them, quite cold places as well?
Yes, it was a coincidence. We were on tour and every once in a while there'd be a week or two off and we would just stay in whatever city we were in and find anywhere where we can isolate ourselves and set up keyboards and record. And in Detroit, we asked around where could we set up keyboards and make noise without anyone bothering us. And someone told us about a strip of stores that were abandoned. No one would know we were there. So we set up in one of the stores and we felt inspired by the fact that the Stooges were from Detroit. The Stooges are one of my all-time favorite bands.
And they're on the Big Day Out lineup with you as well.
Yeah, we're really happy to be able to see them at every show.
You've seen them so far in the Big Day Outs that you've played? What's it been like for their shows so far in the few Big Day Outs that have gone by?
Well, for me, it's been like a religious experience because I've spent my life in love with this band.
The first choice is by the Stooges, Now I Want to Be Your Dog, a classic Stooges tune, which they do play in their live set, and such an incredible, visceral song this as well. Why is this one in particular? If you're taking us around the world, we seem to have landed kind of in Australia, kind of in Detroit, as they're here at the moment. Why this song though, Ethan?
I chose I Want to Be Your Dog because I think it's one of the most covered songs in history. There's great versions by Sonic Youth, The Gossip, every bar band in every town does this song. I think even my old garage band did this song, so let's hear the original. It
opens with such a shredding guitar sound as well. You must, and listen to the sounds of Crystal Castles. Is this something that attracts you, that absolutely shredding opener before it drops down into that bass?
Yeah, everything about the song's great.
Okay, let's take a listen. This is Iggy and the Stooges on Triple J. Now I Want to Be Your Dog. Crystal Castles taking 5 with you. A great band from London called Male Bonding on Triple J. That was from their debut and the first song from it, Years Not Long, and it followed on from the Mighty Stooges. Here in the country for the big days out happening around the nation, Now I Want to Be Your Dog. The guy who is programming the music for you is Ethan from Crystal Castles, in here to take 5 and take you around the world with those tunes. Were we in London for that last song, Ethan? Why did you choose that one?
The first time we ever went to London, we booked a bunch of shows, and the members of Male Bonding were always at the shows supporting us, and even on the bill for some of the shows. So a few years later, we were touring Europe this past November we toured Europe and we needed to choose an opening band, and we really loved the Male Bonding album, so we asked them to open the tour, and it went really well. People really liked them, and we got to see one of our favorite bands every night, so it was great.
Does it ever get old when you're doing that, when you're actually seeing the same band every night?
No, if you love a band and you love the songs, it never gets old.
I imagine too, when I first heard that record, it's got such great energy, and I know they're all kind of young guys. I always thought, yeah, they'd be really killer live on stage as well.
Yeah, if anything, you appreciate the songs more and more.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about travelling the world in general, because Crystal Castles have been, I mean, it seems like you guys are always on the road, if not doing your own shows, then playing with others and, of course, festivals as well. Is that a common occurrence where you find out about new music via the people that you're playing with on other festivals and on other shows?
Yeah, we learn about a lot of bands through festivals. You know, we don't always have time to check out the bands, but you know, sometimes it'll happen.
Did Male Bonding like the fact that you'd sort of seen them and then decided to ask them to be part of your act in that regard? It wasn't just some promoter putting you guys together. I mean, that's kind of a big thing for them to be asked personally by Crystal Castles, I imagine.
Yeah, they appreciated it.
Maybe you'll find an Australian band on this tour.
Yeah, maybe we will. Last time we played Australia, we asked this band DZ to play with us.
From Brisbane, they're great.
Yeah, they did all the shows, and they were personally invited by us. So
awesome. Okay, bands, on your best behaviour, Crystal Castles may be watching you over the next couple of weeks. Ethan's taking 5 with you from Crystal Castles and taking you around the world. I'm just thinking, you know, there's a lot about Crystal Castles, not only in the name of the band, but also in the names of some of these songs and the places you've recorded it. There's kind of a cold aesthetic to the sound and, you know, and a literal aesthetic of Crystal Castles. As you travel the world, and particularly now in the Australian summer, does the environment you're in affect the way that you make music? Is it ever something that comes into your mind and travels out to what you create?
I don't think environment or geography would ever influence our sound. I think it's all about the isolation. We always find somewhere where we could just not be disturbed. You know, we prefer empty rooms where we can just focus on the song.
Is it kind of, I mean, you say that these places that you found were just literally days off, find a quiet place, record. Is that how you approach recording? It's like, I can do it right now, one foot in front of the other. I'm just going to get it done. Is it really living in the moment?
Yeah, it's about finding a mood and capturing the moment. No matter where we are, we can isolate ourselves and find that mood.
Has the mood been found in Australia? Have you found any little isolated spots in Australia yet?
No, I don't think we've ever recorded in Australia.
Yeah, right. Maybe while Alice has got a leg up in a sling in a hotel somewhere, there'll be some songs about broken ankles. Crystal Castle's taking 5 with you. We're going around the world. I think we're going to head to Brooklyn next. A great band called Vivian Girls. I Believe in Nothing is the next choice for Ethan. Why this one?
We're friends with Vivian Girls. We really like their band, and we hang out with them whenever we can, whether they're in Toronto or if we're in New York. We try to hang out. We're just big fans of theirs and we support them.
Were you friends with them before you started hearing their music, or did you seek them out after you heard their record?
No, we became friends because we like their music.
Is that a common thing with you guys? I mean, do you like to befriend the bands that you're fans of?
We don't usually make friends that easily, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know.
Is it part of the isolation?
We're usually just traveling to the next show or recording in a hole somewhere. So there's not much time for friend making.
Recording in a hole. Sounds kind of cozy, but also a little bit sad, Ethan. All right, let's play your besties. This is the sounds of Vivian Girls. I Believe in Nothing on Triple J. That is a big song for you on Triple J. It is Dominoes from the Big Pink and Vivian Girls in just before that. I Believe in Nothing, the name of that tune. Ethan from Crystal Castles is in to take 5. He's taking you around the world, and a band that you kind of lived with back in the day before the Big Pink existed. Tell me about this.
Yeah, the first time we went to London, we lived in this guy Milo's rehearsal room for months, and he was building these tracks that later became the Big Pink album.
Yeah, right.
And he had actually flown us to London and set up all our shows because he put out our first 7-inch. He was just a kid who was having fun, really. He pressed the Alice Practice 7-inch.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which was our first release, and we couldn't even get copies of ourselves because he sold out in them before we could even look at one.
Wow.
And the entire time we were there, he was working on this new band, which later became the Big Pink.
So how different did it sound, the stuff that you heard when you were sleeping in this rehearsal room, to then what came out and was a pretty big record in the UK when it was released, about a year and a half ago?
Yeah, there was no vocals. It was just instrumentals, and you couldn't really tell where it was going to go at the time. It was just they had all these instrumentals, which they kept slaving over, and there was not one hint of melody.
Yeah, right.
Yet, so you couldn't really tell what was going to happen.
With Chris, and that makes me think of your music and where your songs end up, which is obviously where we hear them as listeners, as an audience. How long does it take for you to get from the beginning to the end of a track? Or is that just the most ridiculous question ever? Is it always a different process?
Yeah, it's always different. Sometimes you could start a loop and it'll feel like it's complete just on its own. And other times you can work on it forever until it feels right. It's never the same process.
There was one song in particular off the latest record that went through a couple of different stages, namely because the second time around it was released as, I guess, a special deluxe reissue of your record with Robert Smith on the vocals. And of course, I'm talking about the big hit, Not In Love, which was a big hit in the Hottest 100 this year, just went past on Wednesday. How did that collaboration come about? How did you get the legendary lead singer of The Cure on one of your records?
The Cure asked us to open a show for them a year ago, and we couldn't believe that they had even heard of us, and we were honored to do the show. And at the show we started talking with Robert Smith, and we received a message from him months later that he wanted to remix one of our tracks. And we thought, forget the remix, why don't you just sing on one of the tracks? And he liked that idea, and we chose Not In Love, which I sing on the album through a vocoder. We asked him to replace the vocoder with his voice. It's
a great collaboration between you guys. Is there anyone else on your wish list? Obviously, this came about via a request by Robert Smith, which is, I'm sure, an amazing compliment to Crystal Castles. But do you ever think about having guest players on your records or any wish list of those who would appear on a future Crystal Castles album?
No, we really haven't thought about that. We're more of an in the moment kind of band, and whatever happens. Like that just happened, and it was a really nice surprise. And I'm still not even used to the fact that we have a song featuring the singer of The Cure. It kind of feels like a dream.
Yeah, it sounds like a dream too. It is a great song, one of my favourite of the year. When you play it out live, are you singing it, or do you chuck Robert Smith's vocals through a machine and have him sing it out live on stage?
We just started playing it live, and Alice is singing it through a vocoder.
Nice. You can see that tonight at the Palace in Melbourne. Crystal Castles, one of their second and only side shows that they're playing tonight. And then they head to the Melbourne Big Day Out on Sunday. Next weekend, Adelaide and Perth, the final big days out. And a huge week it's been for you, Ethan. Thanks so much for coming in and taking 5. I understand that your downtime at the moment is being taken up by being nurse to Alice. So wish her all the best from us.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
She's going to be resting her leg and, of course, still performing with Crystal Castles as a part of their Big Day Out performances. We've got one more song for you to take us around the world with today, and we're going to finish kind of in Iceland with the beautiful Sigur Rós. Glasoli is the name of the song that we're going to go out with. Why this song, and where are we headed with it?
After we played Iceland, we had 3 weeks off there. So someone hooked us up with this old church where we recorded a lot of the album. And we also became friends with Sigur Rós after playing a festival together. And we had talked about doing a song together, but both of our schedules were too crazy. So we thought it would be best if I just sample something of theirs. And I did that. I sampled their vocals on our track Year of Silence. And yeah, we should play Sigur Rós just to represent Iceland.
It is a beautiful song. Does this song ever, you talk about a sound reminding you of a place with Crystal Castles. It's the feeling of isolation, as you've talked about. When you listen to Sigur Rós, where does it take you? What is the mental imagery or the feeling that you get when you're hearing their music?
I just think they're one of the most epic bands of our time, and I feel inspired when I listen to them.
Let's take a listen to it on Triple J. It really is beautiful music. This is a great Friday tune too. It's not a dance song, but it takes you to another place and into a weekend. Ethan, Kath from Crystal Castles has been taking 5 with you. Your weekend is going to be live music and big days out, so have a great time, Ethan. Thanks so much for taking 5.
Thank you.
This is Glasoli, Triple J Mornings.